Let's go, let's go, let's go. Aye, people wanna hate every day, it's okay.
My name's Jesse May. I lived life on the edge from the age of 13 till 21, which eventually caused me to have to serve time in federal prison. These stories are from that time, my time in prison, and my life after as I built my business. I don't condone or recommend any of the reckless behavior I took part in during my younger years. But if you'd like to hear the whole story, like and subscribe. Reckless Success.
Welcome back to Reckless Success. We got my cousin Justin May on. He owns Southern Illinois Excavators out of Southern Illinois, based out of Carterville, Illinois. How's it going?
It's good, man. Good.
This is actually our second one. The first one, it's might need to be edited up a little bit. It was kind of a trial run.
Trial run, yeah.
So this would be the one we put out there.
No, it's changed a bunch. Very professional.
Yeah, this is
The
nice,
stands
isn't it?
are nice.
Yeah, the first time I had the curtains.
Right.
Did not look good at all.
No.
Yeah, I like
Oh, we
it.
got the picture, the famous picture.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. What? How's things been going?
Good.
Getting ready for winter.
Wintertime.
Winter's
Yeah.
moving in. We're both in the excavation world, so when winter gets here and the weather breaks, it starts to get a little nerve-wracking. You know, when the sun's not shining, and it's just starting. We're in December now, so we've got a good four, maybe 5 months to go of cloudy weather, muddy conditions. But I did want to put up some pictures while we were talking today. As I was going through my past pictures, I was looking at 50% of my pictures, all the sky's always gray and cloudy.
Right.
And I just, seems like, and I had some of a pond where I have sump holes dug. And I mean, the sky's just gray. This one's full. There's a road across, but I would pump it all over into this side. I'd dig down, get the clay, dig down, then I'd open it up, drain it to that side. But in the build of that pond, you can see that it gets rainy, and then the dam's covered in snow.
Right.
And then it's clear again. It snowed, I think, we dug that pond in October, and it snowed an inch or so for a day or two. But
You know what's crazy about that is I was talking to an operator today that is a boss for an asphalt company. And I was like, well, where are you guys working at? He's like, well, we're laid off.
already?
I was like, what do you mean? He's like, no, we'll fire back up in March. Right now we're laid off. And on the asphalt side of things, I can see that being like a blessing in a sense. Like, you've done your work, you're done, we'll fire back up now. But on the dirt side of things in our area, it'll go from, we could have a span of like 4 or 5 days of dry weather and 60-degree. And everybody's like, where are you at? We're ready to start this pond. And then you start.
And it turns to shit.
And then it just turns off 25 degrees, snowing, sleeting.
Yeah, when we done a driveway over there off of McCander Road, about halfway into cutting into that hillside, it snowed. And I thought, man, it was the worst time. I need good clay, not snow and mush.
Right.
But seems like around here, for our climate, we can wait a week. It might disappear and dry up. But it does get scary this time of year. Coming in, because the time changes, the sun quits shining, people quit thinking about fixing stuff, you know. In the summertime, everybody's out fixing everything up and making it right. Right now, everybody's getting home from work and it's dark. And
nobody's looking outside.
yeah, but
you never know. I mean, that's what people, we went and looked at the pond the other day, and we were discussing about those prospects of starting the pond now. Well, we haven't hit the winter season, so the ground's not saturated. Versus in April, when everybody's expected to start a pond, you've had the saturation for the past 3 or 4 months. The rainy season coming up, but it's just, you know, it's like me and you were talking earlier about, it's a part of the business. It's just, it's always a roller coaster. I mean,
a lot of highs, a lot of lows, but if you don't take that chance, you'll never know.
No.
So that's one thing I want to touch on today, is just to talk about how I got started. You know, I was working for other contractors, and I remember when I had a side-by-side, and then I got another side-by-side, and I was working for another contractor, and I thought, well, this is going good, and then the side-by-side sat for 6 months. just, it was work season. It wasn't ride season.
Right.
And I thought, well, I'm going to sell the side-by-side and buy a Mini. Everybody's got one, but I tried it. I done it anyways.
Right.
And after we got that first Mini, we just go out, start getting small jobs. And, starting out, I would make mistakes, but then the customer would call. Or it wouldn't even be a mistake, even just say it rained a week later and you got a little erosion on something, which I still go back and fix. But that's something I started doing, and that really helped. If something washes out and it's something I didn't agree that I wouldn't fix, I'd go back, fix it.
Right.
And it kept customers coming until our smaller jobs, which were 1-day jobs, turned to 3-day gigs, to 3-week gigs, to month-long gigs. So just started small and built our way up. Rented equipment. I had a Mini X at first, so I'd rent a skid steer. Or I would, rent a bigger Traco if I had a bigger job. Then we'd started buying bigger Tracos. Right. And I was going through pictures, and I was talking with Lisa, and I was looking at that D6. And I was like, I think I'm going to go get me a new D6. That's just, that D6N is a good dozer, all around, pusher. I done some good jobs with that thing. So
I think we can both agree that I wouldn't be hesitant to bid jobs and rent what you need, but don't just bid jobs that only equipment that you have. Like the rental market right now is so plush; they're all over the place, and their rates are fairly decent. And as long as you do your homework, that you can figure out the cost.
Especially with these now that we're popping up, used to you just had the option of Easy Rental or Bobcat,
that was it.
And now we've got more guys that are starting to buy equipment. That are private, and they have some, I believe, more specialized equipment that you can get. You can get larger stuff, or, for example, mulching heads or stuff like that you couldn't get at Bobcat typically.
And that's the thing about, like, this year, if I would have went and bought, because I've had different contractors be like, I hate renting, I always just buy stuff. If I would have bought what we rented this year, on rent, I probably spent $5,000. What equipment I rented would have cost me, $250 to $350.
Right.
And
$350,000.
I mean,
compared to $5,000.
And just used it for one particular job, and that just opened the rental fleet being like it is now has just opened up a realm of work that you can do.
Right. Yeah, like when we went through COVID, they couldn't get tractors, so what they ended up doing was they would sell the rental fleet off because they weren't getting new tractors in. So then the rental market got really hurt, and you couldn't rent. So at that time, it would be best to own.
Right.
I remember at that time looking for certain pieces, and you could not find them. So there's pros and cons. You don't want to rent everything.
No.
Because then you got a job lined up, and rental company gave it to somebody else, and it looks bad on your business. So it's good to own, your key equipment, but you can rent special equipment.
Right. I mean, and it's like what happened to us last fall is that we had 2 months worth of work that needed Traco work on it, and luckily the agreement we had with the customers that they would pay a portion as soon as we showed up, but the rent on the excavator was $9,000 a month, and I had to pay at the beginning of the month, because I was a new young, business owner, so they didn't trust. We hadn't set up the line of credit yet, but. I mean, that's a chunk of change. That's $18,000 in 2 months.
Especially when you're not used to that kind of money. So yeah, $9,000 would just be, how am I going to pay for that? But if you start small, he was renting a larger machine for a larger job. But if you're starting small, you can rent some of this stuff. A Mini, you can rent for $500 a weekend and do a job that's, as long as you do a good job that is worthy of it, you could make a couple grand. So
and that's something to think about on the rental side of things. It's I had a guy that was an operator that I worked with that was excellent operator, but he went into the landscape business and then went into some different other things, and he needed to get a larger Traco at his property to extend a pond. Well, when he called them, our big manufacturers in our area when he called them, they're like, well, we can't rent to an individual.
Right.
And he's like, well, I'll pay the money. And they're like, no, we got to have an FEIN number. We've got to have business insurance, workman's comp insurance.
You won't be able to rent the bigger stuff
I mean,
unless you have a business, which I think even if you do this on the weekend, say you've got a 9-to-5 job that you're already working, your full-time job, and you want to, just get your feet wet and try it on the weekend, I still think it's very important that you start a business,
yes.
because if not, you're just going to dig yourself a hole that you got to crawl out of later. So it's important to go ahead. Starting a business is not hard. You could do it in a couple days easy.
The thing about it with the excavation business, particularly, why that's so important, what he was just talking about, it is that I'm not downing lawn care businesses, but you're not just mowing somebody's yard. Like, generally, you're taking an excavator, mini or mid-size, and you're going somewhere and you're digging in the ground,
Right.
which is loaded with utilities.
Right.
Natural gas that
Next to
can
a foundation
eat your
of a
lunch,
house.
foundations, fiber optics, MediaCom, and that was such a stress during COVID when everybody was working from home.
Right.
Where internet lines used to be
Yeah.
like not that big a deal, but
Yeah.
when everybody become,
Oh, yeah.
you
You
that
cut
was
somebody's internet line during COVID.
yes, yeah,
They were out there instantly.
Yeah.
There's no hiding from that one.
we cut one that the guy told me, whatever you do not hit the internet line because that's how I'm working from home. And we had it Juliet, everything was good, and we were digging away from where they didn't locate. It was a mismark, and we cut it, and he come out storming in his sweatpants.
Right.
He was working from home,
His
but
day was ruined.
his day was ruined. Yeah, COVID time with internet lines was stressful. But no, I mean, you got started as small as you could start. I mean,
Yeah. Started
One
with
machine.
one mini,
was that 337 Bobcat?
337, which was a amazing machine.
Yeah.
It was a very good machine. Very impressed with that. That was when Ingersoll Rand built them,
Right.
and then they sold out. But it was a solid machine. We used it for years.
Yeah.
For a couple of years, that's all we had.
Yeah.
And then
I rented it from him a couple times.
Yeah. Then we bought a skid steer. The day Ethan was born, it got delivered.
Yeah.
So that's always a struggle, We bought it from Ohio, and the shipper was delivering it. And my wife's in labor, so I'm sitting there. I'm like, man, I really want to go see this new machine that's coming, but I also want to see the baby. So the doctor told us she had a while. It was going to be that evening, so I left, went and got the machine, checked it out, made sure everything was good, and on my way back, there was that Burger Nook, and I'd called my wife and checked. I'd called her and checked how she was doing, and she hadn't moved along, so I stopped and got my chili market at one of my favorite stores there, because that hospital food, it's not that good. And I guess the receipt went to her, and she called me right as I was paying. What are you doing? I was just stopping to get some to go, that's all. But and after that, we just little by little, we grew a little at a time, and we went through old tractors. Now we're starting, we've started new tractors, which we started with old at first, and it done the trick. It got the jobs done. We were able to do a good job. They weren't so old, like our D6. It was a 2012.
Right.
It had higher hours, but boy, it done
Did
the
a lot of
same
work.
thing that a
Right.
new D6
Right.
would do
For a quarter of the cost.
for a quarter of the cost, and
Right.
we used it for a few years. So
But one thing I will say about you starting a business and myself, you were working for operators and running a business on the side, because
Right.
it wasn't like it just happened overnight, like where you
Right.
could solely fund your family
Right.
off this business that you're just starting.
Right.
Mine was the same way. I mean, I was at a steady job for 2 years until I
Just
decided to make the jump. I had got enough, but
right.
it wasn't like one day I quit and was like, oh,
Yeah.
I'm going to start a business.
Yeah, I wouldn't recommend just
No.
stopping what you're doing. If you're not doing anything at all, start here. If you're working somewhere, it's always best to, do your job on the weekends when you can. And this is going to happen with a lot of people. Everybody's having to get side work. I mean, the economy is so bad right now.
Yeah.
and it doesn't even have to be with tractors. This could apply to any business, anything. You know, you want to make sure you keep good credit. You want to pay all your bills. And, you know, you start to build relationships with other contractors in the area. And you could go clean gutters. I mean, there's all kinds of businesses you could start to do side hustles. And I think if you do them all right, I know people that didn't get the FEIN number and don't get insurance, and their business doesn't last. They'll have a little business for 4 or 5 months, and then something happens and it doesn't work out. If you put in the time, the effort, you know, up front, you're going to have to pay a little bit of money. It's going to cost.
Insurance.
You got to have insurance. You got to have workman's comp.
Yep.
And the FEIN number. You should be good to go. And this could go for, there's multiple businesses building gutters. Oh. You know, it took me a year to get a guy to come put gutters on my house.
Anything of, like, we'll just say like a handyman service.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that South Park. Have you seen that one?
No.
Yeah, see it. There's a South Park. South Park's always making spoofs off things, you know.
Right.
One of the new ones is the handyman is the billionaire.
Right.
And all the guys that are like geologists, they're standing at Home Depot and they got signs and it's like oven doors broke and this Spanish guy pulls up and he's all blinged out and he's like, I'll trade you some geology if you'll fix this. And he's like, no, I ain't got time for you. And he's like, I'm going to do something better. Right. But it's funny because the trade guy is the billionaire, and that's probably where it's going to lead to.
Yeah. I was just listening this morning of local college talking about how much just the handyman services of plumber, electrician, pipe fitter, anything in the trades, you'll be well off, I think, in 10 years.
Yeah.
But you got to be willing to put in the hours. But I think like what he was talking about with the business side of things, if you're going to go into business, whether it be gutters, plumbing, whatever the case is, do it right off the bat, get adjusted, and all your income figured to what the payout is. Because if you're just going to try to go out there and go in business and not do any of that, not pay the insurance, not pay the state fees and this, that, and the other, well, you might as well just plan on being in business a couple of years, if that.
If you're lucky.
You start cashing big. I'm going to never forget you telling me about cashing checks.
Yeah.
I never knew that.
Right.
You took a check through your business.
Right.
And of a large amount, you know.
Right. That's how I first found out about it. I was going to the bank, you know. This 2016, I was just doing it on the weekend, and a couple weekends in, they'll go off your social security number, you know, but they don't like doing that. But to get started, and finally they said, well, you're going to need a business. Right. Said, damn, that's good. Right. I didn't ever think about that.
Well, I mean, I had,
Yeah, I just kind of called it May Excavators.
Right. I mean, there's a lot to it. And it's funny because I've told people that people want to start a business, and I'm like, well, listen, make sure you check with the state first, register that business, whatever, like we talked about earlier, gutters, whatever the case is. Make sure you register that, you check throughout the state to make sure that name's not taken.
Right.
I had JM Excavating, and that was our logo for my little side business. And I went and had shirts made, koozies made, dumped the money in on this, had the number, my phone number, everything on it, and then went to sign in to do my FEIN number to the state.
And it was taken.
And it was taken out of a Bloomington or something.
You didn't have a real life Ellie or real life Luke.
No. Well, all right. We're going to have to, those shirts are no good. People still wear them around, and I'm like,
yeah.
Hey, yeah.
Just cut those up, make rags.
Yeah. Those are good shop rags. But little stuff like that, I mean, if you're willing to take the leap to do it. And the thing about it is, regardless of whatever business you want to go into, whether it be whatever trade it is, you better know the trade. That's one thing I've learned. They're like, we knew how to run tractors. It's secondhand nature. But then when you go into business running tractors, that's a completely different animal.
Right. So
if you don't know how to run the equipment and you're trying to go into business with it,
right.
Good luck.
Good luck. It's going to be tough.
Because it's tough. So any trade, if you get into the plumbers, you get into electricians, and you see that you like doing that, and you're working for we'll just say a mom and pop operation.
Right.
that it's good, but you decide that you want to take the leap and do it, you better be very good at your craft
To get into
to
it.
go into
Right.
business. Because learning your craft and learning, like in ours of running equipment, if you can't do that and then you decide to go into business, it's
And
a
that's
nosedive.
that's with everything. I think if you're looking into starting a business, you want to study every aspect of it down to every detail. How much is this going to cost? You need a business plan. One thing we utilized before is at our university, our local university, they had a program that helps people start businesses.
Right.
So when we didn't know how to start a business, we went over there and they helped us with a business plan, everything, helped us with different questions we had. We'd call them, and it was all a free through the college. We didn't pay for nothing. They just
Well, and
offer it.
that's something between the both of us is that we both went through a 4-year apprenticeship for operating.
I've been through 8 years of apprenticeship. I've done
But-
electricians too,
And I was talking to my mom the other day.
in cell block 6.
What about how many years have you gone through for business classes?
Right, none.
None.
But luckily, I've got an Ellie.
Right.
I do not, to be honest, know much about the business side. Luckily, my wife and I own the business,
Right.
and she definitely pulls her weight. I mean, I run the tractors,
Right.
but all the way down to estimating to she communicates, she's PR, she's everything. So it does help to have that in place, and you're going to be in that position.
Getting close.
You're getting close.
Yeah, getting
So
close.
you're going to see. I remember when we were running our business, my wife was working a full-time job and then helping, we have an accountant, but we still do the QuickBooks.
Right.
So we still got to enter the information, still got payroll, still got all that stuff. So she would do that after hours. And then when she switched from working for somebody else, we had a baby, and then she started back working for our company.
Right.
And it changed everything.
Right.
I couldn't, I was struggling. There was many days, we talked about it a minute ago, where I was working 7 days a week.
Right.
I mean, I would work, and I didn't want to. It's just that's what we had to do to pay the bills, to keep, because at this point, then I'm working for myself.
Right.
Luckily, I've always had my brother, which is my key guy, and it definitely helps. If you're going to start a business, you need some good people around you.
That understand the process.
Yeah.
That's the biggest thing.
Yeah, I wouldn't be close to this without having a good group of guys.
Right.
My brother's been there with us from the get go. We've had other guys, help us out here and there on the ground.
Right.
But as far as operating,
Right.
everything's just been me and my brother.
Yeah.
It's pretty amazing. We went from we'll have 4 tractors out on a pond job, and I might use 2 of them this week, and next week that one might get used. But I've never tried to expand really, and never wanted to. So
Yeah, it's going back with having your brother there. It's like me having my dad that
Right.
understand the process of going into business. Because if you think you can, I'm gonna start off in a business. I'm gonna hire somebody. I'm gonna pay him 40 to 50 hours a week every week.
yeah, good luck,
Yeah, it's
Especially
not
in
gonna happen. It's
Illinois.
not gonna happen. I mean,
especially in Illinois.
you can do that and you can go broke quickly. And that, like with you having your brother and me having my dad, that wonder, and
And then we have each other,
right.
so there's a lot of times I help Justin out. There's a lot of times Justin helps me out. So it does help if you got, you want to start a business. And this, we're just talking from the excavating side. You can do this with properties. If you and your wife want to do something, real estate's good. We've got a building that we just bought. We're going to sample our toes into commercial real estate. So we've renovated a building. It's about to be for lease. It's real nice. We've done the epoxy floors.
Right.
Looks good. But so just taking, and once you figure this out and you see these steps, and the main thing I want to go back to is good credit. If you have good credit,
Right.
at 16 you can be working on credit, and all the way through 18. If you have good credit, you're always paying your bills on time. That's very important in all this. So then you can start a business, you can immediately take out on that FEIN number a line of credit,
Yep.
very shortly after you start it to help you then, boost you along. And as long as you keep paying that and take care of it, there's no reason not to
Right.
do what you want to do. The main thing that makes you happy. There's times when I wake up. I woke up one time and we were doing a big dirt job, and I was running the D6 in all day, and I was just so damned excited. And I remember I was in bed before my alarm went off, and I sat straight up in bed and I played the fucking air guitar. I was so damned excited to go to work.
Right.
And then I went to work all day, and I just could not believe that I'm getting to run this big, powerful machine and get paid killer money to do it,
Yeah.
So, and I see other guys that like doing their trade. I don't see many plumbers that are tickled shitless at the end of the day, but they are on payday.
Right. No, they make good money.
Plumbers make damn good money.
But no, good credit, like you were saying, is so. For example, this job that we just did, it's a long span paying job, which is expected. But we had these subs that I hired out to do different work for us that were respectful enough that knew that at the end of the job that I'd pay them, and that was kind of the agreement that we had. So, end of the job came. My invoices have been sent. It's bigger commercial work, so anybody that goes into that room just expect
some delays.
some delays on your payment. But to get them paid and to have a good reputation with them that we've established through your, that's what gets so confused. Everybody's like, Jesse or Justin? I'm like, who's ever in good terms, know?
Right. Which one doesn't have an outstanding balance?
Right. So anyways, we got to the end of the job, and they're like, everybody was really relaxed about it, about being paid, which I was kind of paranoid about it. Like, I owe these people money. So I went to the bank, and just off of good credit and paying bills on time and any loans that I had to pull, I paid them off as soon as I needed them, like a note or something of that nature.
Right.
I was able to call him and say, hey, I need X amount of dollars to get my subs paid. Because I know that the money's good, the contract's signed, but it's going to be a little bit. But I want to get these guys paid. So within less than 24 hours, I went in and signed some paperwork. They cut me a check on a 60-day note. So that way I can get all the subs paid. That's just a good reputation, but that's where good credit and good banking habits, don't cry wolf on stuff like this, because you'll get burned.
Yeah.
I mean, easily.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that worked out good. And you can do that. And, if you're a younger guy, it's going to be harder to do. But one thing I got to get some grease on this. Why is everything I have squeak? Nobody else's shit squeaks except mine. Anyways, as a younger guy, it may be harder to go to the bank, but it's not hard to start that business. And then you can instantly start applying for credit cards. And don't use this information and not do it right, because it's just going to haunt you for the rest of your life. It's the main thing. I have heard, I've watched TikTok and these guys say, oh, you start a business and you get this line of credit. Well, that only works if you pay that credit back. You don't actually get away with just using that money. But that is a huge jump. I mean, I can think right now off the top of my head 5 businesses that you could start for probably under $10,000 and have a good income. And I mean, 100 plus a year, 100,000 nowadays isn't that much money.
A hammer and a pouch with nails.
You can do it.
I can do a lot,
Yeah. It's getting hard. We have people from another state here painting our building because the painters around here, we couldn't get quotes back. People are busy. Yeah. Everybody's busy. You call the painters, they're booked out. You call the roofers, they're booked out. And we live in a rural area. So I couldn't imagine in the city where maybe they got too many contractors. But around here, there's lots of work. My problem's always been, is it too wet to do the work, or are we going to do this? But that's another thing, back to the excavation side. I'm working in the winter, but then I bought a tiller, and then I bought a compactor, sheep's foot. So we'd go in, and if the soil, needed worked, we'd till it up with that Bobcat tiller. I could till up a big plot of land real quick and then roll it a few times and stiffen it right up. So I was just buying stuff along the way. The tools, what helped me out the most is I got kind of one track minded, which you have to do if you're running a business. Oh, yeah. And I took all my profit and I would buy more stuff for the business. Right. So if I made X amount of money on this, well, damn, that means I can get another implement or this. And, next time it'll be this much easier. So I did do that for a few years. You got to do that to help grow your business. You can't get the first check and, cash it and go buy a new damn Denali or whatever it is that you're wanting. You need to get the business built up. You need to get the business built up for a while. So for us, we didn't go on vacation for 4 years. I'm sure we went on a little weekend getaway maybe, but no real family vacations.
Do you remember, so I think it was in July, me and you were meeting at Burger Nook for breakfast, and that's when we had the monsoon.
Yeah, we did.
Like 6 inches of rain in like 4 or 5 hours.
Right.
So it's like somebody told me our office had flooded. I went and assessed it, saw what it was, called my wife. I'm like, hey, pack the kids up. She's a school teacher, so summertime, her and the boys were off. I'm like, pack your stuff up. We're going on vacation. Me and you sit down there at Burger Nook, start eating breakfast, and my phone starts ringing. This job that we did 4 months ago, this job that we did 3 months ago, just little odds and ends, from
that was not a rain. That was a flash flood. I mean, it was going over the tops of roads. So anytime you have that, I mean, it was
something that the office flooded that our grandparents owned it since 73 and it never had flooded like it had.
Right.
So my wife called me like an hour after we got done eating breakfast, and she's like, so where are we going? And I said, unpack the bags.
Yeah. We're staying here, honey.
Yeah, we're staying here, no vacation.
Oh yeah. Yeah. So anytime you have a big, flood like that, your phone's going to ring.
Oh yeah.
Something's happened, because you just can't stop Mother Nature.
No.
You can do your best. You can rechannel it, but sometimes there's just not enough to work with. If you're working off a city culvert, you got so much fall and you get a flash flood, well, yeah, it's still going to back up unless that culvert gets, upsized or add another one next to it. But we put in those 3 at the golf course, 3 60-inch. I think they might have been 40 footers, 60-inch diameter. Put 3 of them in side by side. We took out a bridge, and for the first couple, because the bridge washed out. So for the first couple rains after that, we did a water analysis. We did do a water analysis on it, seeing how much volume was coming through there. But still, those 3 culverts were catching the whole town. So when you get a flash flood, 6 inches, you're nervous about it.
Oh yeah.
And that'd be my go-to spot. If we got a bad rain, I'd go check that one. Where you'd go. Make sure it's still there.
And that's what people. If you want to go into business, like, you got to understand this is what you're dealing with.
Yeah,
it's the stuff of
Oh, I've sat up playing the air guitar because I was so excited to work, but I've also sat up in bed with night sweats,
terrified,
thinking, what in the hell have I gotten myself into here?
Yeah.
Many times have I done that, and it's usually based around the winter. I used to have, and I never had anxiety. I never had anxiety in my whole life until I went into business. And I went into business, and I actually felt what it meant. One time we were doing a big job at, it was in the winter time. So in the winter time, I've always, land these big jobs. It's crazy because I'll get paranoid coming up to winter. Because there's nothing worse than working all summer and you build your nest egg up, and then winter gets here, and then you start seeing your nest egg go down as you're servicing your equipment. That's what we'd do. We'd pull our equipment in. We'd put tracks on dozers, the whole undercarriage, just go through them once a year. They get a good full service. After that, they're getting oil changes in the field, or they're getting oil added to them in the field. So anyways, every year I would get this anxiety early winter, thinking, damn, I gotta, we gotta still work because
Right.
even though it's just me and my brother, we always have at least a 40-hour week.
Right.
We're not working less than 40 hours, so that's kind of a thing.
That's hard. That's hard to do.
That's very hard to do. Some
It's hard to do.
years have been a lot harder than others. I mean, we'd clean the shop but it always comes through. But I'd always get to that point. So, anyways, we're doing big job winter time. My good buddy has got this project, and he calls us in on it. And we've got the D6, and my brother was running a track. I think he was running a 350 loading. I've got a haul truck bringing dirt to me, and I'm lining this big cell. So we're lining it with like 6 foot of clay. Benches cut all around. We'll put pictures up. Benches cut all around, doing the stair step. It had to be 90. It was definitely 95. It may have been 98. It was crazy. Compaction. And in the winter time, I mean, we were pushing snow off of this job site. And that's, another, like this one here with all these track codes, you see the puddles of water. We're out there working in the rain. I mean, as long as you keep a clean area and don't do it, and you know how to work in the rain, you can usually, get by. So
off the top, that was not staged.
No, that's you. Yeah, you're in that picture.
Yeah, that wasn't staged.
Yeah.
That just happened to be somebody snapped that picture.
Yeah.
And that's how it went.
And that one, where's this other one at? This one wasn't staged either. That's my brother and me both loading trucks early in the morning. And a guy sent me that picture. I said, damn, I got another one that goes with it. But yeah, look at those trucks lined up. There's 10 or 15. Those are big trucks.
3 Mays under a lot of pressure of all the truck lights.
I know that I'm about to use a long stick, and that one at the end was a 95-foot long stick. Yeah. That is a big stick. I mean, he could really reach out there and touch something. What was that one? You're in the center. How long was yours?
50 was 75 foot with a bigger bucket, because that's where we ran into problems. The trucks were like, well, he only put so many buckets on me. I'm like, we got all three
different buckets. Right. Yeah, we'd have to move them up like Congo Lock. I had the smallest bucket.
You had the smallest bucket.
So I'm in the front.
Yeah.
Getting them out of there.
Load, and I would throw like one more on.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Boy, we were moving some material out of there, though.
Those truck lights.
And look how clean that job looks. All them trucks, look at the road. The road's nice. Nothing's tore up. We're just working our way right down that ditch, cleaning it out. It went good. It looks good.
But the thing about, I go back to on, if you can't run the equipment, good luck going into business. Because to take 3 long sticks and swing around on coordination, all to be getting ready to dump, and all swing back around.
Right. Without hitting each other.
You're right. It's pretty technical.
Yeah. I like working rather with a few other guys,
right,
or in front of other people, because it seems like everybody just wants to stop and watch.
Oh, yeah.
When you're in a big tractor, everybody wants to watch anyways, and I just get more excited. I think they're cheering me on. Right. In my head, I can hear them over there cheering. So I start working harder and faster.
Yeah, I do better under pressure.
Yeah.
The more the audience, the better.
I know it. Sometimes I think that, and all of a sudden I hit a power line or something. Hold on, let me start over. Yeah. Come back. I done that one time. We were working. Man, I mean, this high voltage line was over the top of the job, and I've got a big hole dug. I'm going down 20 foot, and they had these lines down. Well, over the weekend, they had a big storm, and these lines fed the hospital, so they had to put the temporary lines back up. I come in, the lines have been down for 4 months. We talked about the lines. There's the lines. And I'm going to move underneath the lines. I just talked about it. I knew they were there. I get halfway under the lines, and I had a big group of people watching. I mean, I'm talking from out of state. There's some serious white hats on this project watching me. And I seen something over here that caught my eye. Well, I swung right around, and all of a sudden, bam! I had GPS, Trimble all set up in here.
Wow.
And I think it was there was a piece of rebar sticking up. I think it scratched under the counterweight. They said, but I mean, the lines were shaking. I didn't see me hit the line because I looked at that rebar. Right. Lines were shaking. I thought, damn, we just talked about these lines. But they'd been down for 4 months. I got complacent. Right. So they called me over, and I laid my knuckle down, and we looked at it, and there was nothing on there. And, so I don't know if I hit the line or not, but it's easy.
Well, that's crazy.
It's easy to get complacent. And even though you talk about something, to forget. There's a lot of You could, even in a small mini excavator, you can hit a house and I mean, you're done.
Yeah.
You could tear up stuff. You could hit a person, if you're working with a buddy and you don't know what you're doing, you could easily kill somebody. So you definitely want to know what you're doing. For us, we went through operator apprenticeships. We're both signatory with unions.
Any trade union, I mean, that's the thing about the business. It's an excellent degree. I mean, basically, you're getting paid excellent wages, good benefits, insurance, which is a big one that we've both dealt with.
Mm-hmm.
And
I mean, you're gonna meet guys. If you get into it, you're gonna meet somebody that's in one, and if you want to get into, say, a plumber, electrician, just start hanging out with the plumbers and electricians wherever the hell they are.
Right.
They're gonna get you into that local. I mean, they see that you want to work, you start putting in the effort. Somebody's gonna help you out because they want good help. They want good workers. So.
But I mean, you're reaping good benefits and you're learning a trade, but the difference is, and there's nothing wrong with somebody. There's so many people I know that want to just go work from 7 to 3:30, and then at 3:30 when that bell rings or whatever the time clock clocks, they're ready to go hunt, fish. Right. How much extra hobbies do you have with owning a business?
I got a lot of toys. I just don't got time to
you don't
play
have time
with
to do it.
Yeah.
So it takes a certain person to want to dedicate basically their life to a business.
Right.
There's nothing wrong with going to work and then at 3:30 getting to go home and go do whatever you want. But where we don't, that doesn't happen.
I'm hell or high water. We've got, and it didn't start out like this. It took us a while, but luckily we have a pension through our union. And then I've invested. I've got different stocks, IRAs. You want to be looking out for your retirement. So my goal's 55, and I'm 39 right now. If I could get there at 55, I've got 15, 16 years to push and to figure out 86. Yeah. If I could do 55, I was just thinking, I don't know how long I'll live. We do actually have pretty long lifespan in our family. I would like to be slowing down. I'm not going to want to work like this forever.
No.
I'll do it while I'm in my prime here, and then I want to go enjoy it with my wife and take her and show her all these pretty places she always wants to go.
That's the thing about in the line of business of any trade. Just think that the more money you make, the more time you spend. Right. You agree?
Oh, yeah.
So it wouldn't hurt to, when you get into this line of business, what everybody's searching for is something that can produce you income that you don't have to be 100% tied to it. And I think that's key.
Which we'll have a great experience coming up learning about all this because we're going snowmobiling. What is it, January 11th through 15th, West Yellowstone, Montana. We'll see you guys there. Make sure you come say hi. And we're going to go with one of our buddies that's really good at all this. He also owns a few businesses. We have a lot of buddies that own businesses, but this particular buddy, I'll have him on sometime. He started a excavation business, had a lawn mowing. His lawn mowing business in high school took off to where he turned it into a excavating business that took off. Did great work. I never heard a bad word about the guy. Everybody you talk to, he does great work. He's honest.
Hard worker.
Yeah. He turned that into an electrician or electrical company. So he's doing big things, but he knows a lot of stuff about a lot of stuff. So he knows how to, where to put your money. So hopefully while we're on our trip, we can learn from the best because he's one of them.
And something to think about that. I went to school with the individual we're talking about, and
OWB.
Yeah. He, so in the afternoons when we were going to ball practice, football, basketball, he always had a trailer hooked up to his pickup truck. So as soon as he was cut loose from school, he was going to do something.
Right.
Whether it be mowing yards, picking up leaves at the time,
working and look at
he was working. So now I look at him where he is now and,
he built a shop.
Outstanding job. I mean,
he built a shop that's so freaking big. It's like a 136 or bigger. I think it's a 136 by 100 and something, but I went in it and he had his tandem and his dozer loaded up on a
Looked a little
trailer
bitty.
in a corner, and it looked little bitty. Like I couldn't throw a football
Yeah.
at this thing. It looked
Yeah.
like I was like, good Lord, this is a building. But he's an impressive guy. I like him.
He's worker hard. That was, that's the thing about him in school is that he got, you can say 3 years head start on all of us
Right.
in the working force.
Right.
You know,
And he is a very good networker. That's another good thing, or another thing you need to do. If you're an introvert, then you need to find a business that would match an introvert. Make it e-commerce or something online. If you're an extrovert, where you like to,
be extrovert.
well, you've got to be able to talk to people. So if you're shy, you need to work on that. But something I was told when I was in my high school days, which wasn't many, from a teacher, he said, and we didn't have cell phones like we do now. And he said, every contact that you run into, get their name, get their number, and try to share a story with them to where you two connect real quick. It doesn't have to be long, but to where they remember you. And he had a book, and it had all these names and numbers. And that's such a good point, especially with how easy it is with cell phones. When you talk to somebody, you meet them, don't just say, what's your Facebook or something.
Right.
Get their name and number. If it's their birthday and you see it on Facebook, something I do,
Right.
I'll text the person and say, hey, happy birthday. I just feel like it's more personal. And, but by getting out there, you got to be able to network. Nobody's going to bite your head off. If I'm at a restaurant and somebody comes up to me and they want to know about anything, excavating, hell, I'm a talker. I'll talk with you and they could get all kinds of knowledge. But if you're too scared to ask or to move forward, it could hinder you in this process. So you definitely want to put yourself out there.
And that's the thing about any trade you go into. That's where we go back to like the apprenticeships or different types of avenues to go work for people. You got to be super confident in the knowledge that you know of the trade that you're in.
Right.
Because you're going to get these questions. You're going to get random things that if you don't know the context of what you're talking about,
Right.
you might take the person's conversation as a insult where they just don't know what they're talking about, but you're confident in the avenue of work that you do.
Yeah.
That it's not an insult. They just don't know.
Right.
So that you're there to. But if I don't, there's been so many conversations I've had with people, and they're asking me all these detailed questions. Where if I didn't know, I'd feel like,
Yeah.
I'd be like bear in the corner, like, all right,
Right.
you want to fight, like what?
Right.
But because
I like it.
Right.
When I'm talking to a customer
Right.
and, they've done a little bit of research or they may know what they're, because they've
Right.
dealt with it. Usually everybody's problem they've been dealing with for a few years.
Firsthand.
They might have been dealing with this for 10 freaking years. This keeps eroding. So I like when I see that the customer asks me a question that they're trying to feel me out, and I know exactly the answer they're looking for and I can come up with a solution. I mean, when I get to a job and I'm looking at a job, my mind is analyzing everything.
Right.
From the second I'm turned onto their street, I'm looking at which way the water's flowing, how big the culverts are, what this is, depending on if it's erosion or what they want. But I still, even if it's not a water issue, I'm still analyzing everything coming up. And so, yeah, you definitely need to know what you're talking about. And I've gotten jobs in the past. One time I went and laid out a pond and I'm looking at this pond and the ladies, it's too steep. Whoever built it too steep to maintain. Right. So when they're too steep and it grows up, you got a chance for muskrats or whatever, any other varmints to get in there and start digging holes in your dam. So it's best to be able to mow your dam so you can keep an eye on it, see what's going on. Well, I look at this job and she's telling me the grass is up to my tits. She's like, there's snakes down there. And I'm like, snakes? Like, I don't want to deal with no snakes, And where we're at, there are rattlesnakes in the area. We got copperheads. We got poisonous snakes.
Snakes.
Yeah, so I'm down in here and I'm figuring all this up. And I'm pulling string lines and I'm figuring out how to get a 3-to-1 slope. And boy, I'm jotting down numbers because I don't do it as much anymore. I've kind of went more techie. But when I first started, I learned all this, longhand form.
Right.
How to figure. And I figured up this job. And anyways, I never really tell people right then. I always got to think about it so I don't miss something.
Pen to paper.
Yeah.
Well, I always tell people.
Yeah. So I bid the job and I come in probably like $4,000 or $5,000 higher. I think I was about $4,000 or $5,000 higher than the other bid, the other highest bid or lowest. And she said, this guy did come in lower, but he didn't do none of that stuff you did.
Right.
He didn't know what he was talking about. He didn't say he was going to strip the topsoil, put the clay, and then put the topsoil back. He was just going to bring in, and I'm going to put up some pictures that explain this. I actually have this specific job, but we stripped the topsoil down to clay. We brought in a bunch of clay, and you could see our topsoil coming up as we built the dam back.
Right.
We had the black dirt on top, and this guy's just going to pile a bunch of dirt on there and try.
Yeah.
And it had other issues. It had a little leak that we fixed, but it turned out real good. I mean, it looked phenomenal. I remember the first time I walked over the hill and seen how after the grass had grown.
Right.
I was like, good Lord. But she got what she paid for. And
Right.
she knew it. And she told me afterwards
Right.
that she was very happy with everything and how it worked out. So,
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing about it is,
and don't
we do
go ahead.
we deal with that on ponds is that people will shove the dirt up and boy, it holds for 15, 20 years, depending on how much pressure's behind it.
Right.
And then they start calling, and then
I've
that's
seen
something.
some bad ones.
That's something anymore. I think we're not even going to mess with unless it's completely
Fixing somebody else's pond dam's not good.
No.
I've been involved in it. I've had some great customers that once I found out physical evidence what happened here, that I felt bad that I had to break the news to them. We done a pond repair for a guy, and this the pond dam was like 1,600 foot long, 45 foot tall. The back of it's a 2-to-1 slope, and a big creek that they dammed up, and it all washed out that slope. You couldn't take a skid steer up it backwards or forwards up the backside of this dam. And I'm looking at it, I'm like, well, we need to double your dam size for one. We need to, and it wasn't holding water. It was leaking, but it wasn't getting a lot of runoff either, and it was huge. I mean, this thing was, I can't remember how many acres, 12 to 15, somewhere in there. It was pretty big. And so we rekeyed. Our plan was we seen one spot where it washed out that it was leaking. So we pumped the pond down, and we go in, we rekey it. And as I'm rekeying the dam, I hit a tree trunk. Well, when this guy got this dam built, he was in another state living. He bought this property, hired a contractor down here.
Yeah.
And what the guy did basically is he went in and he clear cut the trees at the ground.
Yeah.
Left all the stumps, came in with a tractor and pan and covered up the topsoil, the trees, everything with clay, and built this
And then,
humongous dam.
and then they start to show their ugly face, the old stumps.
Oh my gosh. When I hit that stump, I hit it and I'm like, what is this? And I see that it's a tree, and I come over here and I start digging beside it like it's going to be a stump. I pull out and I can see topsoil, and I get down, then I can see the clay, and I realize they didn't even strip the topsoil.
Right.
And we patched it. The customer, once I showed him this, I mean, both our hearts sunk.
Right.
I said, buddy, this whole thing pretty much has to come off.
Be redone.
Then, you got to start from step one. The building block of this dam is not done right. So, we definitely run into some stuff like that. And, the next week I was doing that pond, and another guy called me, and I went to his house to look at it, and it was leaking. Same contractor that had done this other guy's pond. There was a treetop coming out of the dam with limbs on it still. And
Probably
just
a
covered up
willow
with
tree,
dirt.
yeah.
They just pushed the tree over in the dam and covered it up. So as long as you don't do stuff like that. And
Come on.
and you got to know what you're doing. Get with one of these old guys. I mean, that's another thing you could do is if you're a young guy that wants to learn something, and I've done this before myself. I've stopped at farmers' houses. One of my favorite farmers around here was Old Man McKinney.
Yeah.
And it started with me needing some straw. So I pulled in there one day, and I'd see him sitting out on his picnic table smoking cigarettes. And I pulled in there one day, and I knew he had straw, and I wanted to buy some, so I got some straw. And me and him, he's at the time in his late 80s, I would say, or in his 80s. And we formed a friendship, and I'd be going down the road. I'd see him sitting outside. I'd pull in. I'd shoot shit for 30 minutes with him, just hear stories and find out that there's so much knowledge. And I'm afraid we need to get it before it's gone.
Right. The old farmers, I don't feel like stopping by. You will ever leave and regret it.
Never regret it.
because
Dude.
they're full of knowledge and
He was a funny guy too.
Yeah.
He was funny, good friend. He was an interesting character. Gave me a lot of knowledge.
But that's the thing about it is going into business, even me and Jesse, that we're the third generation of doing excavation. We still take opinions and on different aspects of the jobs because every job's different. Everything changes. Technology is changing so much, but you don't ever get to a point that you're just too stubborn unless you're like, I'm going to say 65 and older. Maybe you're at that point in your life that you can do that, but as a young man being in business, like you got to be willing to take input on different jobs that you're doing.
And you got to think, when I'm working for a customer, they know that I'm professional. They read my reviews.
Right.
They've more than likely been referred to me. I do a lot of, referral nowadays, it seems like. So I don't know where I was going with that, but whatever it was good, and you missed out because I forgot it. So
what's so good about this is it's Jesse May with May Excavating, and it's Justin May with Southern Illinois Excavators. And I'll get calls to go look at jobs, and it'd be like, "Are you Jesse May?" I'm like, "Well, let's look at the job first. Let's see what it looks like." We had that conversation the other day. Just somebody called about a job that they're like, "You bid it." I'm like, "No, that wasn't me.
Yeah,
that was
I went
Jesse."
and bid a job for you.
That was Jesse. Call him.
It's fun though. So I've always been somebody that I just love information, knowledge. I soak it up like a sponge. So when I go to meet my customer, I'm not just showing up first time, and looking at what it is and then one track mind. I'm going to be a little more personable, ask them how their day was, just because really I'm curious. I'm that damn friendly that I want to know how your day was, what do you do for work, or how's your life going? And in my experience, all my customers love to chat, and I love to chat. So my wife will call, she'll have dinner cooking or whatnot. And she's like, I'm like, all right, I'm going to stop at this job and shouldn't be here long. And 2 hours later, I call her and she's like, where have you been? And I'm like, well, Fran, you won't believe, Fran was 90 and she had a lot to talk about and I wanted to hear it, and, I just love getting information about history, about people, their lives, stuff like that. But
I looked at a job one time out in Thompsonville, spent probably 2 hours at this woman's house. That was so big, and this was on a Saturday that I had made plans with the wife and the kids to go do something, but you have to go look at a job, it's just part of it. But she knew, she was able to pull up all details of our, I want to say great-great-grandpa that fought in the Civil War. Mm-hmm. And I was like, I remember telling her, I don't care if I get your job or not. I'd like to meet with you and just talk to you some more about it. She was a Civil War buff. She knew all about John May.
Really?
Where he was stationed. She's able to pull up these documents of him being at Vicksburg. So just, on a Saturday morning, I'm meeting somebody like this. I'm like, what?
Yeah, I've met some of the coolest people. All the way from, some really cool people that when they tell me their life story, I'm like, you work for, NASA? But yeah, I have. I've had people that work for NASA. I've had big pharmaceutical reps. Yeah. Just some really interesting people. We had one of my favorite customers is, we done the pond and the horse barn for them. And they actually have a YouTube channel themselves. It is Redgate Farms. Yeah, check out Redgate Farms on YouTube. Yeah. They were one of my customers, but this guy, talk about living off the land. They don't 100% live off the land, but boy, they're doing a real close job. While I was there, I cleared this big couple acre area, big oaks, and he was out there with me, and typically I wouldn't have a customer nowhere near while I'm clearing. So this guy's like, there wasn't no money changed. He's just like, I want to cut. Right. He's like,
I want to work.
Well, they just moved here. They broke. So one of their things is they break wild horses. So they buy these wild Mustangs and break them. Yeah. or maybe not bought wild Mustangs. I think they're adopted type deal. And but while we're there, so this customer, I watch him chainsaw. If you haven't done it a lot, then I can tell you right away that you haven't done it a lot. If you cut, a little bit of firewood in your backyard, and you've got 10 hours on
quick.
if you've got 10 hours on a chainsaw, I can tell compared to if you've got a couple hundred or thousands. So he's doing good. He done real good. He had the whole setup, wedges. I mean, he was good. But when you got a traco with a thumb and you're processing wood, you can hold the tree, cut the stump, move it down. While I'm there, he builds this humongous stack, has a sawmill, green timber. He cuts it all into stacks. He builds a humongous pile of stacks and starts building a damn horse arena. While I'm there, and a house, he built a new. I mean, the dude's amazing. He can do, and he does it all by hand from scratch. And I asked him because I was ignorant, to what was going on. I was like, doesn't it have to be treated? And he's telling me, he's like, no. Right. We built houses out of oak and whatnot for thousands of years or hundreds of years. We just started treating it to get timber from Canada because it weighs so much green, so they pressure treat it so they can ship it. It's all shipping and getting it moved around for money. So he done it. He follow him on Redgate Farms.
But the key word, what you just said in that conversation, was ignorant to what he was doing. So you asked a question. So if you go into business, whatever trade it is, if somebody asks you a random question, which you've been dealt with before, and when I first went into business, I thought people were trying to be smart, but they just don't know. Right. Just like there's a lot of times that we'll have other services done for me personally or for the business, and I don't know. Right. So I just ask. It's not that I'm trying to be nosy or manipulative. I don't know. Right. So.
Yeah, no.
I mean, when you're in business and people start asking you questions, I don't think they're trying to be. Right. Because there's been times I'm like, come on now. Yeah. They don't know.
Well,
that's why they've hired you to do it.
Right. And it's good to. I like whenever back to it. If I don't fix that squeak, I don't know. I'm gonna have that fixed by the next episode. I've actually got a product for it, I guess. So
I haven't moved mine once. Look at that.
Yeah, I know. I like it.
Well, I was looking at something on this board here about being patient.
Yeah.
And
let's talk about this a little bit.
Yeah.
So our grandpa, Charlie May, he actually started May Excavating. Right. I'd say 60s, in the 60s.
Mid-60s.
He had a great career. He had a few businesses, multiple businesses. Yeah. So him and my grandma, and then they went out of business, retired. Probably a good 10, 15 years later, I started May Excavating back up. Yeah. That's the excavating business we have. But whenever I was an apprentice through the operators, and I was going to take my crane test. So I was the first one in our local to have, I had heavy hydraulic, friction. I think they went lattice boom, hydraulic boom, somewhere like that. But I passed all 3 certs. Right. Heavy hydraulic, friction, and crawler. The only one I didn't get was like gantry crane and tower crane, which we don't have tower crane work or gantry. That's more of a factory type position. So I was going, I just got home from prison on this. Just got home from prison. I hit the construction industry. I've been in it a few years now, and I'm going to take a test. I've got my hours for my crane. I had to get, I believe it was 2,000 hours. I oiled on a crane, and I did that through our hall as an apprentice. I was actually on a permit, I believe. I may have been an apprentice. So I was going to take the test in Chicago, and I went to our grandparents' house, and my grandpa was sitting outside, and he had this, and this is just, if you look at it, it's just a little note stick, like a sticky note size. It wasn't very big. And it says, "To Jesse." And the first one, line 1, it's "no fear." So he's telling me, don't have no fear. You can do whatever you want. Just don't be scared. Sometimes we do things like going to Chicago that some people would say, that's just too much. I'm not, I just got home. I'm going to get in a vehicle, go to Chicago, meet a bunch of new people, run a freaking crane that I've never ran before, and take a test on this this course. So no fear. Number 2, he's got, I can, no doubt. So just know you can do it. So as I'm going there, I already know I'm going to pass the test. Just I've practiced. I put in my time. I learned the skill that I had to learn, so I knew I could do it. So third one, he had believe in yourself, which goes along with I can, which, yeah, I knew it on the way there. I believed in myself. Hell, I was more worried about finding my wife a wedding ring. I had to go to Chicago, and I can't drive that city traffic. And sure as shit, I went into Chicago Friday at 3:30 to look at a wedding ring while I'm up here. It was busy as hell. I'm a country guy, so I'm like sitting on the interstate,
Right.
my blinker on. They're just flying by. I'm
They don't
waiting.
care.
I'm like, what the hell? Nobody cared.
The thing I'm going to say about the I can, and no doubt, and believe in yourself, that's not saying that you won't have obstacles along the way.
Right.
That's not saying that I can with only positive paid paths.
Right.
That's saying that I can regardless of the issues I deal with.
Right.
So
Saying
it's
it might
all
be
about
hard.
your mentality, and I mean that was a big part of his mentality was,
Right.
oh, this happened. A lot of people would go down and out about it, but he would figure out a way to do it.
Just move on.
Just keep on going. Not that big a deal.
Yeah. We got, for number 4, we got be patient. It's not going to happen overnight, is what he's trying to tell me. Like your success, it's not going to happen overnight.
Right.
If it does, you probably didn't earn it, or it came easy to you. Stuff lasts a lot longer when you work for it. It seems like. So, be patient. I was. I still went up there and passed all them tests. I need your advice. So he's saying I need your advice to not be scared to ask for people's advice. I'd soak it up like a sponge.
Right.
I talk to a lot of people, and they don't have no clue what they're talking about, and I just kind of take that and take pieces that are good,
Right.
but then after asking a few people, I'll get that advice
build
I
it
was
your own
looking
way.
for. Right.
I mean,
Everybody's different,
Right.
too.
And that's
Their
what's so
way
cool
is
about
not
it.
going to be the same as yours.
there's some people that just be like, oh, I'm not taking they're older, they're younger, whatever the case is. We'll take little bits and pieces of it and build it to however you want that
Right.
works for you.
Then we've got, don't be a know-it-all. Then he's got an arrow over that says a lot to learn. So, he's right. I still have a lot to learn. Hopefully, if I'm lucky, I'm going to learn all the way until I die. I mean, I don't think you ever quit
I
learning.
don't think it quits.
There's so much stuff out there I could learn. So, even in my trade. So, we do good work. That doesn't mean I know
Right.
everything about it. There's constantly new stuff coming out. I run into new soils, or man, this moisture here was just a little too much on that compaction there. So don't be a know-it-all. I've got a lot to learn. I think that goes for all of us. The last one is use good language. No cuss, he says. This is coming from a guy that cussed. Not often,
Not
but
often.
he would. And
Well,
what
he
he's
could-
what he's trying to say here is use good language. Don't cuss. Don't be walking around talking. You're going to an interview. Don't go there and start cussing right away. Don't cuss around people. You should only cuss when you smash your finger with a hammer, or
Well, be professional about things. I think me and you talked about this. I had a guy call me about a job. I'd never met him before, never seen him in person, and he used the F word probably every third word.
right,
Constant. I'm thinking, you don't know who
yeah,
I don't know who you are. Like,
right. And that's how your language
that's how you're
is.
talking to me? I mean, come on now.
Yeah. So clean up your language. It's not
Right.
it's not cool to cuss. I mean, be professional, like Justin said. I don't know what that last thing is. What's that say?
I think your grandma had written
Oh, that was something Grandma wrote down. That was, but this is something that my grandpa wrote to me, and I thought it, was special. So we saved it. We put it on a little board that we keep on one of our office desks.
Yeah.
So little things like that. I just take it, soak it up. I go back to it, learn it.
Right.
So yeah, it's fun. You can get there. If you're say you're at a factory job, because I was there. That's why I said why I called out a factory job is because I've been in many factory jobs. And you're sitting there and you're thinking of a way out. And I used to do this, but now with the internet, it's so easy to use that technology to your benefit, and you can get out while working at your job. So, unless you're working 70, 80 hours a week, if you got a normal job, use those extra 2 days. And this is only if you want to. Some people want to go home to their family, and that's perfectly fine, and spend their weekend. But once you get out of that style where you've got to go report to work, it is very nice, along with sometimes not being nice, but it's very nice that if you're your own boss and you want to do this or that, or you want to take your kids to sing, you can, because you can take off.
If I want to go tomorrow and do whatever I want, I can.
Yeah.
That's
That's good.
That's something I was going to mention. If I can find the guy's TikTok, I'll tag you in this, because he's a owner-operator that's been in business for several years, and he talks about that if you think that you're going into business, he's talking about excavation. If you think you're going into business that someday just magically you're going to have $5 million profit and all your tractors paid for, he's like, it's not going to happen.
Yeah, I know the guy.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I follow him. I don't know his name,
Right.
but he's got the farm and equipment, and he's
like,
working on the screen right now.
He's like, it's not going to happen.
Yeah.
If that's what you're thinking you're going to get into, that one day you're just going to have a magical break.
Right.
That you're going to have all this money and all this paid off. He's like, it's not going to happen.
Right.
The more money you make, the more overhead you have. The same dilemmas that you'll have as a smaller business, you're going to have those as a bigger business.
Right.
So if you can handle it,
you got to be able to handle it.
you got to be able to handle it.
I know. I say this with my wife all the time. I'll see a company, and they've got their work truck and a skid steer, and they're at the local bar.
Right.
And I'm like, what a bad look that is.
Right.
You've got your skid steer up at the bar. But I tell her, I say, man, I could see how back in, my younger days before I had all this self-control,
Right.
how you would do a job. And then I could see where these guys are messing up. It wouldn't, because you've got to, it's hard, and somebody gives you a bunch of money, and all that money, you just got to take it from them and put it in an account and pay a bunch of other shit.
Right.
So it's not like you can go out and just spend that money.
No.
But once you do that enough times, that profit builds up, your business builds up,
Right.
and then you can start, buying. We went from having, when I didn't work for myself, we had side-by-sides. Right. The next 4 years, we didn't have toys like that. I might have had like a 300EX or something, but we didn't have side-by-sides. My toys were the tractors. I worked for those 4 years. Now we're to a place where we don't work, weekends or really much overtime.
But with that, I mean, as you're young and dealing with business and dealing with numbers, people want to pay you cash for how much cheaper if I pay you cash? None. Okay, none, because I got to pay out whatever overhead was on the job. I still got to pay out. It's got to go back in the business to keep the business running. So, anytime I've had cash jobs, I don't care if they're 1,000 or 10,000. I immediately take that amount of cash and go right to the bank and deposit it in our business account.
Right.
And that's what I'm moving off of.
You just want to be careful. You can't get this money and go to the bar and spend it. It's fun to go out, but don't take your work truck. Don't take your skid steer to the bar. It's not a good look.
No.
And just get used to moving a bunch of money. Just in the past few weeks, we have sold 2 Tracos, bought a new Traco, and bought a truck. So, like, the amount of money that's coming in and moving is...
Got to pay close attention to what's going on, because
We sold a big Traco, sold a little Traco.
Right.
We just bought a brand new one today. Picked it up today. It's nice. It's clean.
And what's funny about, and I know you guys have dealt with it, but going into business, like, when you get around, I'm not meaning this in a bad way, but when you get around other people that deal with like a steady paycheck and this, that, and other, when you talk about like thousands of dollars, they look at you like you're rich or you're crazy.
Right.
And
I moved $250,000 in the last 2 weeks.
Right.
I didn't get to keep none of it.
You'll say stuff, and I'm like, and a buddy of mine was talking to me, I'm like, dude, I wrote $12,000 worth of checks today. He's like, what? this is just the realm you get into, and it's not that I'm just completely rich. It's just a process
business.
of moving
You're-
money. I mean, it's
You're in our case, you're basically the chief financial officer. You're having to take this money and divvy it out to where it goes. And, you know, sometimes if you get 15, 20% profit on a job, it's about normal. If you do better than that, that's good. And sometimes you do less than that. Sometimes I've done jobs and just done them just to say I'd done the fucking job and ain't made $1 off of it. Maybe. I don't know. Not many of those, but I'm sure there's been jobs where we got done and I thought, boy, which I don't bid. There's a difference. Some people bid jobs by the hour. Some people do bids. I won't bid a job by the hour. I don't have time to load up a skid steer or a mini and come work it for 4 hours. Or
those days are gone. Those days will happen. They'll be at the beginning, and you'll
Yeah.
be tickled to death that you made $500 on a 4-hour minimum or whatever the case is.
Right.
And you'll be tickled to death, but then you'll
get tired of that real quick.
That won't work.
When Martha's out there with her notebook or timer and stopping that stopwatch.
Yeah.
So I just bid stuff the way I do my projects, and I bid a hard bid. That's the way that's right. It. Unless you change something. So if you want to add something while I'm here that we hadn't talked about, then the price can change. But if it's the job we talked about, right. I give you a price. That's the price. I don't care if I don't do change orders on anything residential. If I run into a mess, I'm going to take care of it because I should have seen that when I bid the job. Right. So sometimes that works to my advantage. Sometimes it doesn't. So sometimes I do the job. I do the exact same job. I beat my own schedule. Just, you know, the weather works out. I get ahead. Sometimes, and for those of you that are saying, well, you should give some money back. Well, here's the kicker to that. The next job I might be on, I bid it just right, and it rains the whole time, and this south. And that, and I don't make nothing on it. So you can't just give money back.
The way I look at
You've got to average it all out to where you're making that 15 to 20% profit.
People will talk about that, about you should give money back.
Or 40.
That's in the process of the job going smooth, but in the concept of the process going south, that you're eating it.
Yeah,
we don't go to the customer and say, "I tell you what, the weather's been bad. I need 5,000 more." Right. We eat it.
So that's one thing. If you were looking to start a business, do it that way, because I talk to so many customers that say, "Well, so and so bid this job, and they got halfway through, and they said, well, all your money's gone on that, so now it's going to be another 20 grand. Right. And they say, I had no clue. I thought it was 20 grand, and now they're telling me they need another 20. Right. Don't do that. Be upfront. Do the full bid, and if it works in your favor, then it works in your favor. If you miss something, then you'll learn, and the next time I bet you don't miss it.
Right. And if you're the cheapest all the time, I mean, that's where, you talk about bids all the time, that our prices seem to be generally just a phase higher, but that's because that it covers the aspect of what we've seen and experience.
Right.
You know.
Right.
That we won't come to you and be like,
well,
hey, we bid it for 10, but now we need 30.
Yeah. If you think I'm higher than the other guy, just look at my reviews and go look at his reviews, and then you'll be like, okay. All right. This is because I've looked at some of these other guys' reviews, and I'm like, ooh, or I just seen their work, and I go behind. And I'm not knocking the other guys, but there's some guys that just don't know what they're doing yet. Right. They're learning. They should have watched my YouTube videos, which will be up soon. So, but yeah, just a lot of seat time. Seat time's gonna get you there, but I kind of rambled on. I keep looking at that picture behind you. That D6, man. Ellie, I want a new D6 under the Christmas tree.
The thing with me is, we go back to that, is that you have to be an expert in what trade you're doing to be able to be in business doing it.
Right.
I mean, if I were to go bid a job to be an electrician, and I'm not 100% certain on how to do the electrical work,
it's not going to work out. That's why you got to
either I'm going to completely underbid myself and eat it.
Right.
Or completely be out of the ballpark.
And that's where it comes in to go work. If this is what you're wanting to do, but say you want to do residential, rough wire and electrician, you go to that guy, find the guy in the phone book or in your phone. You go to him, say, you give me a chance for 2 weeks. And that 2 weeks, you don't stare at your fucking phone. You leave your phone in the truck. Right. tell your wife you'll call her at the end of the day. I cannot believe I have picked people up before going to work with me. First day, and they're on the phone all day long, calling their wife, and I'm like, this ain't gonna work. Don't do that. Pay attention to what's going on. Work your ass off. I guarantee they're gonna keep you around.
Right.
I mean, I've seen guys with a shovel just kind of poke at it.
Right.
I'm like, what are you doing, man?
Right.
Get the shovel and go. So,
Well, something else we can talk about is end of the year. For any of you guys that are in business or just starting out, is end of the year, you got to think about taxes.
on top of it being
Yeah.
snowy and gloomy and
Right.
rainy.
So if you're in the excavation business right now, what's so crazy with me is that everybody always talks about what you need to buy, something you need to buy to benefit the business, because at the end of the year, and you always judge that off of what you've made with the business, because each year can fluctuate. You can have a $500,000 a year, you can have a $250,000 a year. I mean, it just all depends. But
Right.
it's hard to pull the trigger because you're wanting to hold all your acorns
Right.
to survive the winter. You don't know what kind of winter we're going to have.
Yeah, I think it's best. What's worked out for us the best is the estimated tax payments. You'll do those quarterly. Before we started doing estimated tax payments,
Right.
that first year we just got hit with here's what you owe, and we're like, damn, that's a lot for a
Right.
one-time payment when it's January or February, whenever it comes, and they want it right then. Usually, they don't want to give you much time. I'm pretty sure.
What I think about is as you're going into business, regardless of what it is. So going into business to run tractors, like we were talking about. I mean, you could have a hell of a setup for a plumbing outfit for $10,000.
Right.
You can't buy the first tractor for under $50,000.
Right. Tractors they are a little hard to get into. You can finance this stuff. You need to get some money built up, but it would be, those smaller businesses. So whenever I started, I was always looking for, and this is just me running one mini,
Right.
and I'd be looking to make around, I think we were charging like $80 an hour.
Really?
Try to work 10-hour days. I was trying to get $800, and that would cover, my insurance, my payment, my
Right.
fuel. When you think, damn, 800 sounded good. It wasn't good at
No.
all. I worked after, those were weekend jobs, and I got up to 100 and then 120. Now the fuels went crazy. So, on a mini, you might be getting up there to 150 an hour just,
Right.
or a skid steer, just,
Oh, yeah.
fuel's gotten up
Well,
there.
and that's where we go back to what we were talking about at the beginning of the business, is that if you're going to do it right and you get an FAIN number and all this other stuff and workman's comp, then you just factor in all these aspects that are what we're going to call them unseen expenses.
Right.
Even though they're not unseen, but they're not. You've got your tractor payment, you got your fuel payment, you've got your labor payment.
Right. You got to figure
Now
it.
you got to figure in your insurance, your
The way I like to think about
your
it is,
taxes, all this other stuff that it's just you can figure out what size business you're running, that a percentage that you can tack on
right.
that will help just cover it.
I like to think of it as Married with Children with Ted Bundy or Al Bundy, and he gets his payday and he's counting it all up, and his wife comes by. Well, that's the tax man,
Right.
and the payroll taxes
Right.
guy comes by, and usually at the end of the day, you got 220s to rub together.
Yeah.
But if you do a whole bunch of it a bunch of times, you'll have about 4 or 5 of them to rub together.
But what aggravates me in the business industry is that, especially people getting going, people be like, "Man, I turned 400,000 last year." I'm like, "Really?" I'm like, "Who are you using on insurance?" They're like, "Well, I don't have insurance."
Oh yeah,
I'm like, "So
know
you're
a
just
couple.
sliding under the table the whole time?"
yeah. That isn't gonna work long.
Like,
Anybody that's doing it wrong and they're making that kind of
Man.
money, they're going to be getting a visit from Uncle Sam. And it's usually in the form of federal agents.
Right, I'm
I
like-
know a bunch of them that went away for tax evasion. While I was away, I met guys that said it was their religion. They wouldn't pay taxes.
right.
They'll lock them up quicker than shit,
Yeah.
dude.
So I mean, that's our advice, is that if you're going to go, regardless of what business you go into it as a career.
Right.
You want to build a business off this career, and if you want to venture off after that and do apartments or various different
Right,
incomes.
real estate or
But you've got a
whatever.
you've
You
got
want
a
to have a good portfolio for
Yes,
sure.
yeah.
You don't want to have all your eggs in one basket. So if you're doing excavation, be thinking about something for the winter. So what I would do in the winter, besides, maintenance, is we would start probably about September, and I would start telling customers that wanted clearing, if you can wait till January through March, I'll give you a discount. So yeah, if they could wait, I'd take 20% off.
Right.
And it would usually take longer to clear, longer to burn, longer to clean up, but we were able to
Still
make
making
the
money.
payments. So I wasn't watching my yearly budget go down by the payments for those 4 or 5 months. I was still able to work, pay the payroll. Might not have been putting that profit in during those months, but we weren't taking away from the previous year's, earnings or however it went, whatever.
because there's nothing worse.
There's nothing worse, dude. Many years I got up there where I thought, shit, I might just stop right now and go to Philippines. I've been watching these videos on TikTok where, $600 a month, you can live like a king. And,
Well, it just slowly starts going down. Sometimes it go real fast.
man, them first few years, there would be times. Because as you're coming into spring, you're getting to the end of your savings. You've burnt through most of it.
Yeah.
And you're thinking, man, and then all of a sudden you get $100,000 job and you're like, oh, but I got to figure out how to get this going. I've got 10 grand in the bank and I got to, but so there's different ways. Justin and I don't know if you learned this from me or you just do it, but always do a contract. And if it doesn't have to be at the damn lawyer office drawn up, I will do a letterhead and I'll do a contract on every job. So this is the price. This is what I'll do. I line it out. I won't do pricing on line items because then it gets too confusing. They might say, well, how much to just do this? I don't have time to take that out. And I'm not saying that in a bad way. It's just, this is the job. How I see it can be done right. So I'm not going to do a job if you want to take this out and the job's not right. So this is it. It's all together in one price. But I do that and I put my money down. I put my stipulations about seed. Seed's a real hard one to do. If I'm planting grass at your house, I'm going to plant it per the manufacturer spec. We're going to condition the soil. We might bring in new topsoil if we need to, but we're going to condition it. We're going to plant it. We'll put straw down. After that, it's on the customer because I don't know if the customer is going to water their grass. I don't know if they've got dogs that are running out there peeing on it every couple hours. So grass is like a baby. There's steps like that you need to do.
Detailed contracts.
That's always a good one.
And something that I'm just not dealing with into is the commercial side of contracts, where the contracts me and him are talking about on residential might be or just a page generally.
Right.
Might be 2 pages. But the commercial contracts are, I think the
Books.
last one I got was like 22 pages.
Right.
Yeah.
It's like signing for a house or something. Sign here, sign
Lord.
here.
Which are a lot different. So keep that in mind if you do get into the commercial realm. Think about on your bidding, like the commercial realm, your pay is not instant, but it can be better. But on your residential realm, that's massive cash flow that you can do
Constant. Yeah. We do credit card payments. We accept credit card, checks. Cash, I don't like dealing with cash.
I don't either.
Because like you said, the cash, it's not going to help me out. You paying for cash, it actually hurts me.
Right.
I would rather have a check.
Bank looks at you funny.
I'd rather have the paper trail. It just makes it easier. Anytime somebody whips out cash or they say, well, can I get it cheaper for cash? No, buddy, it's actually going to, might have to give me more cash.
Right. Somebody put a cash in, and that's a shame. I mean, that's just the way today's industry is. I mean, somebody handed me an envelope of $8,000 cash. And I remember, I thought, what? I felt so scared driving back home to the office with it. I'm like,
Not me. I'm sitting in the LA pictures of bricks, talking like it's a telephone, like I'm on Zach Morris's telephone.
But
Yeah.
I mean, just treat cash the same as a check.
I like to bury my cash in a jar.
I feel like old timers
Not
do
at
that
my
from
house.
Vietnam.
Right.
just to keep the people like. There's some certain relatives that I feel like they've done this just to set everybody on a pace that when they pass,
Oh yeah.
everybody's gonna be digging up their yard. They're gonna be calling me, "Will you come dig this yard up?"
Oh, my grandma, when we were kids, on my mom's side, it was my mom's dad's mom. So she got older and she started kind of losing it, and she would hide $100 bills and like all over the house.
Right.
She didn't believe in banks, I guess, and like you'd open a book and a couple hundred would fall
Yeah.
out. Or you would move something, a coaster, and there'd be 100. She would hide it all over
Yeah.
the place. So it was always like an Easter egg hunt.
I tell you, no, something to think about for the wintertime. Anybody that's in the excavation or any seasonal work,
Yeah.
I would highly advise doing that. I
Yeah.
did that when I was working out of the hall. I would take $100 bills and
Right.
stuff it in books in
Yeah.
my gun room. And when the wintertime would happen, and you were waiting on the 2 week for unemployment and all this different stuff, I knew where those books were. I'd go shake them open, and $100 bills would come out.
Make it all right. Right.
I'd feel just fine. you
Yeah,
know?
you definitely want to always keep a nest egg.
Yeah.
Saving's very important. Don't spend it just because you got it. Took me a long time to learn that. You know,
Yeah.
I'd save up money and I'd get enough money, and I always wanted to have this much money to go buy something. But it's good to
Just be wise about it.
just get all those toys and stack them up so you can start saving.
Yeah.
But I think this is a good episode. We'll get
Thanks.
you back on here. We'll get home. It's a school night. We both got to work, so.
That's right.
We'll get
Tomorrow's
back on here in a couple of weeks and talk some more. We appreciate having you on here. This is Justin May with Southern Illinois Excavators. Call him any ponds, clearing, demolition, anything you need. Model, he can do it all.
In my younger days.
I forgot about that.
Yeah.
He really was a model. I forgot.
All right. Thanks, Jesse.
Yep.
Thanks for having us.
All right. Have a good one. All right, guys, we're going to wrap up. You can follow us on TikTok and YouTube at reckless.success, or you can follow us on Instagram at recklesssuccess without the dot. Spotify and Apple Podcast for audio only. Spotify, you can get video. Subscribe and follow. Hit that like button. For more information about May Excavating, go to TikTok at May Excavating. All right, that's a wrap, guys. Thanks.